Hello and welcome. What episode is this? I don't even know. Let's see, the first day was 22 and 23, and then yesterday was 24 and 25. So, all right. So when we last left things, we added ramped conveyors, and they have some bugs. I want that to work. I programmed it so that that doesn't work. I decided I would make it not work, but I think that's wrong. Let's fix that at least. So what I programmed it to is that they have to either be pointing in the same direction or they have to have the same slope. So the idea of that was, I don't even know, because then it would mean a slope leading to a slope of different directions would work, which doesn't make any sense. So that's an example of whatever the current bug is. The animation detection doesn't match the simulation detection. So the simulator, you're both in the simulator, but the simulator says you can't move, but for some reason the animation thinks it can move, so it animates it moving and then it never moves. So what's the actual rule I want here? If the target leads to a ramp, either of these two cases, if it's straight or a ramp leading to a ramp, I don't want it to work. Like that. Right? Those should never successfully feed. So I think what that is if the target is a ramp, and it's not the correct direction, then don't feed. But otherwise do feed. And the rule I wrote was something dumber. So that's where we set in target ID. It's also where we set input ID. Okay, so it's this test right here. All right, and an AND test, you can always split into two ifs, and we'll do that just so that it's easier to read, less code on each line. So what is this rule? It's if the destination dot end dz does not equal 0, and the input does not equal, and they're not in the same direction, that's the false condition. So then we need to negate this whole thing. So let's distribute that in. So, right, that makes sense. If the target is not a ramp, then it's legal, or if they are pointing in the same direction. Okay. And then we'll do this as a nested if. I've talked about this before. I don't write comments. I mean, you might think, if you look at my code, you might think I don't write comments at all, but on stream, I'm really, really bad about explaining things out loud and never commenting them. So don't feed from conveyor to side of ramp. That points to side of ramp. And logically, you'd really do the does belt intersect test first. Is this even a ramp we're pointing at? And then if it is, you do this test. But you can do them in either order. And this one's slightly more efficient. So let's go ahead and run that. I screwed up my curly braces somehow, probably. This one didn't. Good one. Oh, I forgot to save that. I didn't save those changes. All right. That seems reasonable. All right, I'm going to spend a little bit of time. Oh, it stopped. Oh, there, it's doing it there. I'm going to spend just a little bit of time and see if I can find what this simulator versus animation mismatch is, but I really do want to stop spending time on this. So, because it doesn't seem like it's hurting the simulation, I'm willing to let it go for now. I think I need, now that I know how this all works, I think I want that code to actually work a slightly different way. So that's the tick, the long tick rather, belt tick. It's having on the straight ahead case. Just checking. 0, 1, 0, 1, -2, -1, -2, -1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1. It was happening on a straightaway, which is why I'm looking at this block. I think this force mobile we decided was redundant now. So maybe I should remove it just so I don't have to look at the code. Okay, it's 0 there. Is this the only path that makes it 1? TB mobile slots greater than 0. Oh, but I said this isn't the same as that necessarily. I added this later, and I think it's redundant to this. Well, new frontmost. Yep, okay. Zero, 1, 0, 1. Last slot filled, next tick. How do we decide that? Just this. if the last slot isn't moving and isn't empty. Oh, right. And then somebody else can fill it if it's being fed. When it gets fed from the next one, it'll mark it as filled. So we prevent two things from going into the same spot. I don't see anything wrong here. Something must be wrong, but I don't know what it is. What do we do if... else? Is there anything we need to do here? Frontmost is forbidden to move. Do we compute anything else up there that matters? I don't think so. Yeah, I did get a computer science degree. Although I was already a serious programmer before I took any classes. But I did, that was how I got to... I didn't start learning C and maybe even Pascal, I guess, until I started university and had to for classes. But I did more work and learned more outside of classes than in classes. And in fact, I avoided getting a computer science degree for a while. I looked for other things to major in for a while I was programming on the side. But if you dig up my interview on Handmade Dev, I guess, whatever that interview show was called, I talk a bit about that and an example of something I learned in college that I did apply in my work. I don't know. Something in here is obviously wrong, but I don't know what it is. And how about that? That would have affected the left row, because 0 is right and 1 is left. I should probably make an enum for that and replace all these 0s and 1s. And it would have meant if the left row was full, but the right row had no item there, then we would zero.type did equal 0, so no item there, then we wouldn't run this. Yep, so that was it. I forgot to save it again. Dang it. Okay, there was a little glitch when it filled there, but I'll live with it. Okay, looks good. Let's go ahead and save this. All right. I need another one of these. Pushing. Yeah, I don't know what the plan is for the game, right? I might decide this is a really awesome game and take it closed source, like leave the whatever the current open source status is and go closed source and finish it, or it might just stay this open thing. I have no idea. I don't have a really specific plan. The only thing I have a plan for, entirety of the plan here, was I wanted to make a game. I mean, this wasn't actually exactly true, but it was what I had an eye on. Wanted to make a game and have the development entirely recorded in videos, sort of as research data. So if somebody out there wants to go through and collect data on what bugs do I make and how long does it take me to fix them, or they want to, how many times do I say X or something like who knows what usefulness there might be in that. And maybe none. Maybe nobody will ever do it. So beyond that sort of pure researchy mentality, it obviously serves as people who want to watch someone experience, develop a game and see what it really takes to get from A to B. The stream part of this is just, I might as well stream it given that I'm making videos of it. But I could just make the videos and not stream it and post the videos. So that was really the only goal. All right. So I push the current state. I should probably maybe include the save game in the Git. I don't know. So now we want machines that feed stuff. So instead of like this hack of the ore, we'll make a machine that generates ore and a machine that consumes ore and have to plop them down. So we need some new block types. So let's move the ones that we're actually using to the top here. I don't know which other ones we're using. We're using some kind of stone under the ground and something like grass. Stone. So we're using these. We're not using those. So maybe put that. I'm not saving that stuff to disk, so it's okay for me to reorder those. So in that order. So so these are going to be machines that don't last. So let's just call them ore maker or eater. So These are just to help us figure out how machines should work, how they interact with the logistics sim. So we need to be able to make them. We need to texture them. Let's take a look at our textures. I think we miscad nothing useful, right? Yeah. I think we're gonna have to make more placeholder textures because we want to like have the things have sides that are distinctive. So let's just go ahead and do that. Fine. There we go. 1K by 1K. And that. Edit. Preferences, grid. Okay. So we want right, it's just a placeholder, so I'm not going to worry about making it look at all reasonable. So I need to make 16 copies of it because that's how the texture works. Oh, it actually needs to... Well, we'll see what this happens. Centered is wrong is the thing I was just thinking about. In this case, because it's a machine, it should just be an exact copy. Excuse me. I don't actually want variation, but so I could also just make a full-size one and set the texture scale, fix it at the texture scale. But machinery or make. Oh wait, I need to flatten it. Or maker. I'm not sure why I saved that other one as a JPEG. Oh, I guess I just wanted to save space. Sure, that'll work. These are probably backwards, or this is or maker, the other one is or meter. And that's fine. All right. Let's go back to this. We need our texture loads. We're going to need to systematize this at some point because we're going to have to do this lots of times. first one. That's the second one. And then we put them in backwards order. And then we have to find a JPEG. All right, that should probably successfully load it. And then I don't actually want that texture to be on all sides. That was wrong. I want the, do we have a, oh, who cares? We'll just pick one. It's 10, 15, 16, 17, 18. Let's try 18. And then next one for block type, BG, or eater of face east. Or maker. Oops, didn't copy that. Okay. Let's do that after the conveyors. And then we need to be able to place it. And I forgot to do something, obviously. You can see it's darkening the space around it because it is creating the block and then it's not updating. Yeah, very odd. What did I forget? Or is it creating the block and it's transparent? Oh yes, I have to fill out the block type tables. The geom and such. Mesh builder. Oops. So where did what slot are they in? VBGA data. Oh right, no, right, because I moved it all the way down to 128. Yep. Okay, so mesh builder. So this is that whole thing where I don't really want to fill out this table this way. Instead, what I want to do is do this, init in fact, that lives in, it's currently in main, so let's fix that. Right here. We want to do it the same way here, where we explicitly set it from the type instead of implicitly by its position in the array. So this was the old dead one. I want to say geom for block type. And then to put this into header. It's interesting that those got placed as type empty. Oh yeah, that's a requirement of the engine. The only empty block is that you're allowed to use is type 0 of the STB voxel render. I forgot to bring those functions over. Block type texture. Let's bring over the texture scales as well. All right. Okay, that's not the best marble to use. All right, let's check the. Is that stone? Okay, the blue marble. Let's use that one instead. Which I think was 17. Oh, no, that's a different one. But that'll work. I'll take that. Yeah, and we're going to want to have like a strong theme so that when you do pack these right next to each other, they're obviously separate objects. Maybe I should go ahead and make a dummy machine, generic machine texture. Okay, so now we need to support rotation. And currently we're using rotation stored in the block type, but we don't want to do that because we don't want to eat up block types on that. So we need to actually pass in a separate one. Okay, so it could be part of block geometry. Where else can we pass in the rotation? We don't have any existing fields. I don't think they have rotation, so we may have to just do an explicit separate rotate. It's interesting that there's only 3 things, not 4. I guess I couldn't think of a 4th thing. Does anything else have rotations? Side text rot. No, right, that's rotating the textures, right? We can't use the shared V heights. Yeah, I think we just have to add a whole new thing. That just explicitly stores these. Or we could use an overlay. Does overlay allow encoding rotation? It doesn't look like it. Maybe I should modify that to allow specifying rotation. Because this is what it will allow us to do multi-texture independent of the block type if we wanted to add features. If you wanted to add a texture 2 that wasn't correlated with texture 1, you would need something like overlay to do it. And that would also let us control the rotation independently. All right, let's just use rotate. The texture with the 16 dots is what you're seeing when I place those machines. It's all the textures are scaled up so that each texture stretches across 4 blocks. So like if you look at this right here, that and that do not look the same. That, and that, none of those are actually the same. It doesn't repeat until after 4 times. So each texture covers 4 things. So the texture that I drew is this big. Right, that's the texture that I drew. Well, the inverted one is what I drew. But anyway. And that just allows you to make things less repetitive. In the machine case, it might as well be repetitive. But that's just the default texture scale. All right, so rotate. So that's in Mesh Builder. We're going to have to pass in a rotate. So somewhere we have a thing where we're building a segment at a time. So we'll work backwards here. I guess I could work forwards instead. All right, let's work forwards instead. So we need a gen chunk. Oh, is array of, where's the gen chunk? Oh, it's in Mesh Builder, okay. Gen chunk partial. And a rotation. Oh, it does have overlay already. Okay, but if I want rotate to be independent of overlay, which I probably do. I guess we'll look for lighting. So where do we initialize block in here? We go through the segments. We set their initial states here. What's the z-limit 0 test doing? I don't know. Okay, I want to set it right at the beginning just in case I ever want to use it in the actual generator. I don't want to set it at the end because I might someday you want to set it in the generator. And then here, the edits now need a rotate. Block, rotate. Okay. Well, that's means I'm going to have to rebuild my world from scratch, because the edit thing is going to have to change. Okay, that all seems reasonable. Then when we build the data, you need a U8 segment, rotate 66, 66, 18. Copy chunk to segment. Copy. Really know why it's that copying 16 when it's 18 tall. Don't really know how that works. Oh, right, we initialize it and we copy it around. That's right. We just always copy all of it. All right, and then we have to pass it in when we generate the mesh. Map arrow rotate equals BD segment rotate 1, 1, 1. We have to propagate this down, or set the default rather. Rotate. Well, we don't. It doesn't matter what this is, since it's set to empty. So we actually don't have to set it. And we do have to copy it, though. I mean, we probably don't in one sense, but it's probably what's in the neighbors doesn't matter. Okay, let's do this in a smarter way instead of retyping it all. Oh, misguessed. All right. Maybe that's it. And then I have to add that to that struct. Yeah. And then when we create the block chunks, change block. Oh, so we could use the existing format. No, we can't. We'd have to replicate the thing. It's not worth preserving because it doesn't actually do anything. Just tests the conveyor belts. Okay. Get block. We need to get block rot. And change block. used in those cases, actually. I think I have to think about how this is redundantly storing all this info in the logic chunk. We probably want to change that eventually, because this is dumb. Alright, so what happens when we pass in here and our type isn't a known type? Nothing happens, okay, good. So, if old type is greater than or equal to BT, machines, destroy machine, and shouldn't that be unused 6 in block? Yes, it should. Where was that? Which type was that? Oh, right, it was in change, block change, whatever that was called, block change. Thank you. Let's see what I haven't actually done. Change block needs to pass in a rotation. So rotation. Which we haven't actually set anywhere. Then if the block is not in that range, I'm going to get the old rotation. And then we prevent it. We'll do change block. Now it's block, comma, rocked. So conveyor belts are going to continue to not use the rotation system because of the texture animation. Rotate is not a member of block change. What did I call it? Rot. We don't care about that. And okay, that claims I did everything. I probably didn't though. So let's disable the load. Edits. See if this works. Yes, that is an old traditional naming convention to use all caps for defines. Okay, the rotation doesn't seem to be working. Or it's not updating. Is it possible it's not updating? Okay, let's check. Rotate block. So the existing rotation is 3. We change it to 0. Let's see, it won't change it from 0 to something. Okay, we're going to set it to 1. Existing type should be unchanged. Yep. The rot should be different, and it is. So we update the rot. And we force the update. Okay, so it must be an error in the mesh builder, but we did set it. I remember setting it. Segment rotation. Segment rotate. Yeah, we pass in map rotate, and voxel render will just automatically use it if you set it. You don't have to do anything else other than set it. Well, we reset it. Yep, okay, there we go. All right, so I think that's working. All right, so go ahead and commit that. So, I want to be able to put down spacers, some kind of thing that I can put the machines on top of, just to keep things looking nice. Because right now I'd have to put them down on top of another machine, which is just kind of dumb. So let's add another type. And the logistics network should just ignore it when I place those. So Whoops, I broke something. Oh, I don't know what that was. Okay, anyways. Okay. Oops, I never do that. All right. I probably want the probably need to put lights in here or something. This is all kind of dark. And let's save it. Okay, so now we gotta start getting the sim going here. So, right, we'll just only have them run on long ticks again. Okay, so find machine logi. See. So let's see. So we have the belt runs, and then we have typed up struct machine state. So we need the offset. You're gonna probably have fewer machines than you have belt. Well, belt runs. Yeah, so let's go ahead and actually be compact with this. 10, 11, 12, 13. We actually just want that to be its own. So that's a 16-bit value. And in an ideal world, that comparison, so we can actually do that like this. Chunk chord struct 16. This is probably over optimizing, but that should be positioned. This needs to be unpacked. Okay, so what else needs to be in the machine state? It needs a timer. What's the slowest the machine should take? If you do 255, currently the long take is 16 frames, which is 16 into 60. That much of a second times 255. So the longest we could go is a minute. A thing that processes 1 per minute. That seems like a reasonable restriction. You can always change it. Unit 8 timer. Oops, sorry. It's 2 bytes. It's 1 byte. So all this super over optimization stuff is just because this whole point of this system is that I want to be able to have a ton of these. It needs to scale really big. For things that don't need to scale, I won't worry about these things as much. I won't be optimizing and packing their data structures and counting bytes. So, you know, the Logi chunk itself, we don't have that many of, so I don't even bother figuring out how big it is. Shouldn't the top mesh on the cube be rotated along with the sides? Well, yes, ideally. It doesn't automatically do that in STB Voxel Render. You have to explicitly ask for it. I think. It's there are circumstances where maybe you wouldn't want it to. It just explicitly decouples that. You can choose to rotate each face independently or not. I think there's some discussion somewhere about that, but yeah, like box side texture route can only rotate the side textures. It doesn't rotate the top texture route, which I assume was because the top texture auto followed the regular rotation, but I don't remember how that works. I mean, it's an interesting question and it is relevant, so that's why I'm going to dive into it a little bit here. Let's just go ahead and find the code that actually does this. Somewhere I compute for each face how it should rotate. Rotate.faceRot. Simple case. Rotate.faceRot, simple rot. So if you're using the simple rot, it does in fact rotate the face to match. But here I don't copy face rot from, oh right, because these are these faces. But if you're using input.rotate, it doesn't rotate. Maybe that's a bug. Wait, where did simple rot come from? Oh right, it can come from lighting. Yeah, I think that maybe is just a bug. We are using the lighting, actually. So I could be passing the simple rot in lighting. I didn't remember that that was available. Config rotation in lighting. Maybe we should switch back to doing that, because that would cause the top face to rotate, I think. And it would be a lot faster because it doesn't need an extra big data structure. Why didn't I see that when config rotation? Wait, you lose a little precision on the lighting, but we're not doing anything with that right now. With that. Sure. Let's go ahead and actually do that. What was I in the middle of doing? Oh, right. This stuff. to do that any differently because I'm going to get a compiler warning otherwise. But I think it is probably a bug that that particular path doesn't rotate the top face. So segment rotate is in Mesh Builder. So we can get rid of that. Let's just delete it. And what's the flag we have to set? Config rotation and lighting, and then make lighting Xed. Oh look, rotation and lighting. I had already defined it because I knew I wanted it someday. And so then when we compute the lighting, burp. This is box make lighting Xed, that comma that. Okay, let's see if that still works. Nope, it doesn't work. Okay, I've enabled it. Wait, but it was already enabled. But this wasn't calling make lighting Xed. Weird. How's that not on a valid line? Did I misspell it? Oh, yep, I left out the word config. That's why. Okay. Why did that instruction never get hit? How is it make mesh block never getting called? Oh. Yeah, that's the non-geo path. Okay, good. All right, so place a thing. Should still be facing east. It is. Rotate, and the top face rotates. Of course, when the top face rotates, it's no longer actually the same face, but that's because I'm using a texture scale. That's an expected result. And that's fine. You're placing a different machine rotated at that same angle. And I forgot to save that again. All right. So I think that's all okay. All right. So save it. Okay, there we go. We saved it. Now let's go back to finishing this in here. So you need a timer, and then let's say you're building inputs. Like maybe you're you use coal for power, and so you have to consume the coal. So so what would that be? Uses. And then if you're constructing something, like your machine that builds stuff from inputs, you need to know what types the inputs are, because the types maybe determine the type of the output, right? Potentially. Or should you not be able to do that? Like you might have, like the quality of the input affects the quality of the output. Or should it just always take exactly the same inputs? You need to know what kind of machine it is. Well, you do have the case, like the way Factorio works is that they have generalized assembly machines that then you configure for what things they process. You kind of need a one item buffer too. So let's just go ahead and have the machine state be 8 bytes. So we can have a config, 1 byte. We can have the output buffer, 1 byte, and inputs. If you have multiple inputs, we need to store whether you've loaded an input into the machine. So maybe this is maybe this is input flags. And if you want to have multiple qualities, those are also flags. I think that's reasonable. We can always change it. Let's call it info instead of state, because some of it is not state. All right. All right, sure. Let's just slice it to 0. mi dot pause dot unpacked dot x equals aux. Mi dot type equals type. Oh, we didn't store the orientation. Equals dot machine info. The type is going to be restricted to 7 bits. I can't really use that. So we'll have to use some of the input flags, I think. Config, I guess, could be restricted. But yeah, if configure were only 6 bits, we'd only be able to have 64 things that you could configure to. I guess we could handle that by having multiple machine types, but multiple assembler types. I'm trying to just be generic and not really. I'm like kind of saying make sure I can implement Factorio. I don't want to actually do Factorio exactly, but since I haven't thought through what the way the sim should work, it's just a starting point. Okay, everything else is zeroed. We'll say that if the timer, well, we'll see. Okay, and then we can accelerate find machine here because we now have, what is it called? Logic chunk cord. So this is the searched for coordinates, unpacked dot box equals x, unpacked dot y equals y, unpacked all equals z, and then we can just check if CR machine dot pause dot packed equals se dot packed. So now it doesn't have to do any bit field math while it's doing this loop, and this is going to be potentially one of the slowest things in the system, maybe. Hopefully we don't call find machine very often. We call it when you're destroying a machine, but that's, you know, not something we call 100 times per tick or something. Per tick, we'll just iterate over them, and hopefully we don't have to search them. We'll see. We'll see how that all shakes out. Yeah, now you have other kinds of machines, like if we did Factorio style inserters that transfer between belts and machines. So they'd kind of prefer to store the belt ID, the target IDs, sort of, which would be 2 uint16s, and then they would need a timer. They would need an output buffer. So I might want to make this a union. So it would be, those 4 bytes would be shared, and then they would need an input and an output, which is each 2 bytes. That would exactly fit. Or they could be stored in a separate array, which might make sense too. All right, let's try and see what we got here. These are backwards. Bit fields aren't really important except when you're trying to do really large quantities of things. You can always do the packing by hand with shifts and masks, and you can often do things more efficiently if you do them, but bit fields let you just get it going and working fast. You can't always beat the compiler speed, but you have the opportunity to beat its speed. All right, so that claims to have worked. So then we just want it in the tick. Logistics tick. First we gather all the belts. And we sort them, and then we process them. You know, we probably actually ought to cache that and only rebuild it on change. Okay, so if it's a long tick, let's go ahead and do a long tick. Let's make this a separate function, just to reduce our nesting depth. Although, yeah, I wonder what I should do about having multiple speeds for belts. I could run long ticks twice as often, but the slow belts only, I think they need to keep their own belt runs though, like their own sorted topological sort, and treat the transition between them specially. Why did I delete the call for that? Oh, I copied it. That's why. All right, so why does that not get zeroed? Oh, it gets zeroed in here somewhere. All right, so first we process all the belts. First we want to consume from all the belts. So yeah, this is really dumb. We're going to traverse this so many times per tick. I really need to build a list of non-empty slots. Oh, I pluralized belts and I didn't pluralize machines. No, I didn't. C, I have BR. Right? Yeah, okay, whatever. Is block type or eater. And x0 timer equals 0, so it's ready to consume again. Then, what can be packed better with shifts and masks than with bit fields? Basically, if you want to update two fields at the same time or test two fields at the same time. The testing is a really common one. Like, you have some complicated logic tests, or semi-complicated. I want to test that it's this type and this rotation, and those are both packed with bit fields into the same spot. The compiler may or may not figure out a more efficient test, depending on where they do that and such. But you even have the option of picking your enum or rotation values such that that complicated test you can guarantee can be tested all at once in a special way. Like, say they're both 2-bit fields, you might have a test that you can arrange such that if you look at the whole 4-bit value at once, it has to be greater than 7 or something like that. That you've arranged all the cases. Oh, that's not greater than equal to 7. You've arranged all the cases. Whereas if you there's no guarantee the compiler is going to notice that if x, whatever this would turn out to be, this is like if x is assuming this is equivalent of that. So it's if x is, so this is x is type 2 or x is type 3 or x is type 1 and y is 3. Like that, you might have these, if these are enums, you might have written it out like that. And there's no guarantee that the compiler, and these are bit fields, there's no guarantee that the compiler is going to notice that that is equivalent to accessing the entire thing without doing a bit shifts or anything and just going like that. So the compiler might do all these bit shifts and stuff to check all these values. It's a sort of artificial example trying to explain it, but it's an actual real thing that happens. The optimizer doesn't always figure that stuff out. And it gives you the opportunity to arrange those explicitly to make sure that that can be tested in a single thing. Like if that were the single most important step in the entire, if you're just testing that everywhere constantly, like that's the single most important thing for performance, you could organize that to work. You could still technically do that with bit fields. You just don't know that the compiler is going to do the right thing, and it requires you to actually look inside and see what order the bit fields are stored in and stuff like that. So you can't necessarily do it portably, although I think most compilers do the same thing. All right, so if the timer is 0, we're ready to eat. We need to know where to eat from, but we're not storing that. Because I think I want to do the inserter style thing of Factorial, have machines dedicated to doing that, and then those machines can pre-store those coordinates instead of having to look them up. So we have to figure out where it outputs to, which is sort of like get target chunk, but we have to do it all by hand. Yeah, okay, so static void get facing chunk. So x int by int z. No, so we actually want the coordinate, the actual coordinate of the object, and the direction. And don't actually need the offset X, Y, Z for these. We don't take the target chunk. Or target chunk, right? That's the output. I guess we want to set the offset. But we're going to have a different meaning. In the other one, it's relative. But we don't need the relative coordinates at all in this case. So we just want the or do we? Then we have to find what belt is there. How do we find a belt? I think we use does belt intersect. Which requires us to loop. Let's just do this all. Let's just get rid of that function that I started to write. Let's not do it like this. Get belt. Right, so we have to find that. We have to get the chunk. We have to compute this. These are EX, EY, Z. Don't know what I was doing there. We're looking for that. We say the belt can't be a ramp. Okay, then we found the belt. And then what are we going to do with it? We're going to actually interact with it. We're going to put stuff on it and take it off. So I think all we need to do is return. Oh, no, we need to know where on it things are. So we need the relative offset. And we actually want to know, actually we just need to know how far along the belt this target point is. So we'll just return two variables rather than trying to put it in a struct. And this doesn't use target chunk at all, so let's move it up before it. So we have to do this. We have to say the actual physical offset is okay, where's the belt actually located? The belt is actually located at slice x times logi chunk size x. Is that how it's spelled? Y times logi chunk size y plus the offset within the chunk. Easier equals, we need this SID, which is easy. This is something called something else. Logi. Oh, it is called logi chunk size z. Okay. We need the old z quantized to since it's not allowed to be sloped, it will always be the same one. But so that needs to be quantized to little logi chunk size z minus 1. That's quantized plus. Oh no, wait, we want the belt. Okay, so that's the position of the start of the belt. XYZ is the position along the belt, so pause equals start pause equals absolute EX minus X plus absolute EY minus Y. So, yeah, I tend not to do math. I mean, actually what's going on with the bit fields when you do math is they get converted to full-sized ints or whatever sized ints. You do all the math and then they get converted back to the file size. Although with the whole integer overflow mess, who knows about that? But I believe they're just always promoted to that. So, you know, bit shifting assigned one is still bad or whatever. Although I'm sure I do it. So where was that code? So not the belt tick, but the long tick. Here it is. So we need to get interaction belt. Was that what it's called? And we take this machine's location, which is slice x times logi size x slice y times logi chunk size y k times logi chunk size z and then facing. No, but that's not auto completing. And how far along the belt? Okay. Then we see is there something there to eat. So we need to know. Oops, we didn't actually store that. I'll run br. Okay. So then we need to know which side. So let's say if belt is leading straight in, we can eat from either side. And if it's on the side, it can only eat from one side. And if it's facing away, it can never eat from it. So we need to know the... Do we just need to know, look at the relative rotations? Does that always tell us? I think it does. Because otherwise we wouldn't be looking at this spot. So switch belt run rot face. What is the orientation? Of course. Minus X rotate. I call it rot or rotate. Rot. Consistency, not important. Okay. So if they're facing in the same direction, then nothing happens because the belt is moving away from the thing. If they're facing head on, we can consume either one. And then these can only consume from one side, and I don't know which side, so we'll just implement something and see whether I got it right or wrong. So if we are items of some sort, cost times items per belt, this doesn't need to be an STB array because we're always storing the length explicitly. So I should fix that. Save a little memory. That's not 0. Then let's consume it. Actually. That's about to animate forward, so let's do that. And then set the timer, so it takes a little bit longer for us to eat again. And this has to be from the other side. And then if it's head on, from either one, but we want to eat the frontmost one, which is and we don't want to eat from both of them. Not return here, break. Okay, maybe. And then after all the belts have simulated, then we can output one. And also decrement the timer. All right, so machine is not the right name anyway. That's why this was not working. It's machine info. That's why it's not getting any autocomplete. Need final break in case 2. Thank you. referenced I. Dot type. I think. Yeah. Things on belts should actually never have anything other than type. I think I can get rid of that extra indirection there. Or it's not really indirection, but extra. Logistics do long tick. Logistics do long tick. Logistics do long tick. Get interaction belt. Return negative or return null. Get interaction belt. Handle the null case. If BR is not equal null. Okay. See if any of that works. Huh, yeah. Did I forget to save it again? I guess I did. Oh, no, I didn't. I just forgot to turn on the load. Woohoo. Why would this break? TB item pos is garbage. So is pos garbage? Is that why that's garbage? Yep, pos is garbage. Where did pos come from? Came from that computation. EX, EY. TC off X. Oh, I probably broke the, I must have broke that get target chunk. Must have changed that accidentally when I was messing with this stuff. No, I don't think I did. Oh yeah, I lost the setting the value of off X, off Y. I copied that up here and then deleted it. I cut and pasted it instead of copy and pasting it. Off X equals, I don't remember what it was. I think it's EX minus BX. That seems not right. Ah, yes. Can I copy paste that? All right. So now let's spontaneously generate some stuff and see if that does anything. Nope. All right, let's find the war eater. Is this ever going to run? Did we create the machines? Apparently we didn't create the machines. Okay, create machine. Oh, I never pushed it in the array. Like an interesting thing you can learn researching this is that I realized that bug before I actually looked at the code. Like I was confident that I would have actually remembered having done it, and I didn't remember having done it. So it wasn't like maybe I didn't. It was I didn't. All right. Okay, now we get here. And is BR null? BR is null. Okay, so this isn't working. Because I'm not passing in the right thing anymore. I'm supposed to pass in the machine address. Oh, because I forgot to put that in. X pause unpacked. X pause unpacked. Y X pause unpacked. Z. All right. Now, do we find the belt? BR is still null. All right. Let's step in. So it should be world coordinates. Okay, there is one. Then we're going to test, does belt intersect? Z off was not Z. Easy is 5. And that's 4. Oh, because they're at different heights. Yeah, the conveyor belt is not the height of the materials on the conveyor belt, but the conveyor belt is actually this block location, where the block is, and this is up one. So we actually have to interact with a conveyor that's one lower. Okay, so we can check that. We don't actually have to. Nope, BR is still null. Okay, now they match. Y is 6, Y off is 1. X is 22, and X off is 17. Okay, so this is probably the other belt. Okay, here's the north belt. X off and X match. Y off is 1, Y is 6, and line is only 4. Why is that the case? Did we go in the wrong direction? Did this step us away instead of towards? Because the texture doesn't match the texture rotation doesn't match. Yeah, I remember I had that problem with something else. The rotations are in the opposite direction. So mesh builder, make lighting. This rotation value has to be reversed. How do you do that? You want to change 1 to 3, 3 to 1, and leave 0 and 2 alone. So you want to XOR the top bit with the bottom bit. I'll just use a lookup table. I guess you can use 4 minus, or 4 minus, and then you have to mask the 3. I guess is the right way to do that. What is STB prefix? It's referring to some libraries that rotated it to face, and that made it crash. And then I accidentally hit a key that caused it to bail. Okay, what is pause? 4. Why is pause 4? It shouldn't be. Should be 3, right? That belt is 4 long. One, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Interaction belt. That's here. All right. So we get the belt start, and then we're going to subtract it from. Oh no, we want to subtract it from this coordinate. Okay. So. So let's compute these as offsets. The STB are the STB libraries that are a bunch of libraries I've written. I don't know if I ever finished that sentence. So once you reuse those, and then it's EX minus OX, Y minus OY. Alright. I know it was finding the right belt because I know it was crashing in that code. There it goes. It's eating them every so often. So then we won't put another eater. That's not an eater. Here and see which side this one tries to eat. It's eating from the wrong side. Okay. So for eater. These are backwards. So this has to be 3 and this has to be 2. And let's make them eat a little less often. So it builds up more. Oh, I didn't say what to rotate it. It'd probably be better if it alternated sides, but this is no real object, so who cares? Okay, so it's not animating them or anything, but that's fine. It's eating this one every so often. Okay, so the problem is it eats it and then they don't animate forward. And the reason for that is because I'm eating before the tick and I actually want to eat after the tick. But if I eat, I'm worried about the flow through the thing if I do this. Oh, I forgot to save it too. We don't need this anymore. I mean, it's going to be cleaner if I just do all of the machine processing after the belt pressing. I just feel like that's going to cause flow issues. But maybe not. Oops. Oops, was I facing the right way? Whoops. All right. Let's save it. Let's turn it on. All right, and then let's rotate it away and let them build up. So then we can see if it animates correctly when it starts eating them. All right. No. He eats one, and then they all jump forward on the next tick. Because when we eat one, we then have to set it to mobile. Eat item from belt run asterisk b int item. So we say b arrow items of item dot type equals 0, and then side pause side equals item and 1 pause equals item shift right 1 if pause greater than the arrow mobile slots of side the arrow mobile slots of side equals pause. And then put item on belt. Instead of calling it eat, let's say take item from belt. Although it's really eating it because it's not going anywhere. Okay, so remove item from belt, add item to belt. Slot. Slot and then add item to belt. Sort arrow items slot type equals 0. Arrow items slot type equal type if the arrow mobile slots of side one pause equals slot shift right 1. So if the last mobile slot was the thing we just filled, then we need to we've filled that, so that one won't be mobile anymore, and we have to propagate that all the way back down. Which is the loop somewhere in here. Okay, what do we end up storing? If it's 0, yeah, we stored the slot that was 0. So We should probably share this code. The force mobile we don't care about, just the J less than 0 case. Okay, I think that maybe works. I'm not calling that anywhere yet, but remove item from belt. I'm not calling that yet either. All right, here. It's this. Remove item from belt, via comma, this. Wait, didn't I reorder this? Okay, yeah, I did. And I did it right. Okay. Could combine these. Maybe that would be smart. But we want to only remove it if it's the right type. And it could be that we accept multiple types. So let's hack it this way for now. Do the same on this. And we can just do that assert in the try. Let's just use the BR length. Set times 2. No, wait, that's not an items per belt. All right, so let's just do this. With the assert. Oh, still have to pass in the type that I added. Okay. Make some EVs. All right, that's a lot clearer. Curly braces, garbage. Okay, I compile it. B, not BR. And I have to put the types in. So let's accept types 1 and 2 and not types 3. Just to start. Did I save that? I don't remember if I saved it. I did, okay. So let's turn that on. So the green ones should never, RGB, the blue ones will never get eaten. And of course now the blue ones are clogging it up. Nice. We'd like it to back up without backing up with the blues. It's blocking up with blues, damn it. Here we go. Will it animate forward or not? It animate forward. All right, good. Okay, so let's make the OR makers so we can stop using this hack and use a different hack. Get interaction belt. Try add item to belt. Let's have him. Sure, we'll have him get generated at the same rate. Let's have him get generated at a slightly different rate, just for fun. Is this correct? Do I need to do anything else? Maybe that's all I have to do. Sure, why not? No. Okay, right. That's not correct. Oh, look, it's already writing. The reason that's not correct is that it's, if you imagine that what it is, imagine that what that is it's a thing that's extracting ore from here and dropping it on the belt. What it actually wants to do is when the timer hits 0, it's going to attempt to start drilling again. So if output. So first, as long as the timer is 0 and it doesn't have anything in its output buffer, so we do this at the end after we get a chance to clear the output buffer. If it doesn't have anything in its output buffer, then we start drilling like this. All right. When it goes to 0, we have to do some special processing. Switch exit type. So some have a special behavior when it goes to 0, as opposed to that check up there. Maybe we don't want to switch on the type multiple times, so maybe we actually do that up front. We do this. Right here. Went to 0 equals 0. False. So the OR eater just always triggers. Okay, yeah, and this should do the same thing. It doesn't need to trigger on. No, right. This one, as long as we haven't restarted the timer, we're ready to go. This one, when the timer hits 0, then we've finished drilling the thing, and we say output. There shouldn't be any output already. Equals whatever we're going to produce. And then if we have an output, it doesn't matter that our timer is running. We always retry this. This will mean we'll wait for a gap. If there's a gap, we'll always insert into the gap. And these do not trigger the timer. They simply clear the output. So this is a little one output buffer in each of these machines. And then if the timer is 0 and we do not have an output, then we start the timer. So we start drilling. Something like that. What would happen if you put an eater right on top of a belt? Wouldn't directions be opposite? I'm not sure what you're asking. That's this case. You should never put them on top of the belt. Like eventually the logistics thing is going to prevent you from, like right now you could put a belt right on top of a belt, so then there's no room for the stuff on the belt to go through. And the plan is to just not let you build that. Or auto-destroy the thing that's in the way. So you wouldn't actually be allowed to put an eater on top of a belt. But right now, it would just ignore the one that it's on top of. It would just simulate through it, actually. But it would still just be this case, and it would actually work correctly, other than the stuff that you don't need going through. All right, so maybe that's correct. Now we'll only be outputting reds. And it should just output reds at a regular rate. And of course they get consumed. So now we put a whole bunch of these. Then either, okay, good. And by the time we get to the end of the line, it should actually not be creating them anymore. Oops, wrong one. These are all queued up already because they've been sitting there waiting. Yep, okay. Now this is eating them once in a while. Yep. So every time it eats one, it'll create a hole somewhere. It'll create a hole at the back, and eventually this will actually not be able to fill because the hole will be behind where it is. Let's see what happens here. Oh, maybe not. Yeah, it can't actually catch up because the way this is working. All right, this is as expected. This is all correct. Go ahead and save that. Now we can start putting multiple consumers down. Yeah, this game is in C because it's my strongest language, but also because it lets me make things that are potentially very large. I need some tools that actually let me create larger things, so we could make a conveyor belt that goes all the way over from those trees to here. Which in the actual game that I'm picturing, you wouldn't normally do until a more advanced stage. You wouldn't want to be dealing with it. You wouldn't want a really long belt like that. But I think that's got the basics going here. It's the basics of some machines. So now these just need to actually pay attention to the what kind of block they're parked on top of. And then the eaters have to actually have an output that does something. So now we start getting to what's the actual game design of the logistics thing. And one obvious, easy thing to do is clone Factorio. And to the extent that Factorio works the same as Minecraft, I don't actually feel that bad about it. So like the basic idea of having ores that you put in a furnace is in both of those games. So that's probably a reasonable starting point. But your furnace needs power. And the way you do that in both Minecraft and Factorio is with coal ore. Gives you your sort of starting furnace ability. This is all still a little weird. That animation is glitchy. Not sure why. I'm not sure I care. That might be the difference between this being an open source game and a closed source game. Like if I were going to try to closed source it and make it a professional quality thing, maybe I'd worry about fixing that. But I think as long as it's open source, I maybe don't care. Let's say that they randomly create red and blue. Did I save that? I don't remember. I might not save the final state where I added the extra eaters. Yeah, I didn't. This will make it a little clearer what's going wrong with this animation here. Yeah, okay, that's animating but not simulating problem. That's why those flip colors. So I fixed one of those already, but I obviously have more. Oh, because I go, when I update a belt, I say, oh wait, it changes which things are mobile, but it doesn't propagate that back to the previous things. Oh, but it shouldn't propagate for sideways. Sideways mobility, that doesn't work. But it would affect the crossing the... what is that on P now? Yeah, but I don't have anything crossing. Yeah, well, the fact that these aren't color-coded for what they eat is because this is all just temporary hack stuff. Like it's, you know, your furnace we could say that furnaces can take any kind of ore and output any kind of ore. You wouldn't want to feed the same kind of ore to it necessarily, because then you'd have to sort it later. And you generally, the feel of Factorio is to sort of avoid the smart sorting, the intermixing on a single belt. Instead, you try to keep everything separate intentionally. That seems to be, at least in the Let's Plays. Yeah, that's going to be annoying, but there you go. There's the beginning of a sort of Factorio feeling thing. And then let's save it. And then let's bump out our view range and run in release mode. So where do we handle the view range? That's probably in data. View disk log 2. Minimize memory. And it'll have a slower startup now, because it has to build more mesh data at start. Not too bad. It's still building the mesh data into the distance right now. Is the fog? It's just not drawn, it's not built the stuff that's into the fog distance. So there's my machine right there. You can't make it out at all. I can't make it out on my screen. I'm not doing any level of detail on the rendering of that stuff. It's currently just going to render all of it if I built a big thing. Yeah, my frame rate is pretty twitchy. And the flying view smoothing is frame rate dependent, I think. Yeah, the frame render time is up pretty high. We're not building meshes anymore, except the cache size is changing. It's claiming it's not building any meshes. Weird. But the cache size is continuing to grow. Okay, yeah, okay. I think that was just always weird. Q chunks. It's only drawing 14 million triangles. I'm not sure why it's glitchy. I don't think that's a simulation. The simulation there isn't actually very much being simulated right now. Which direction? What's the simulation? Where are my things? Don't know what that glitch is. Nope, it wasn't here. I've lost it. It's the origin. Where's the origin? Oops, now my X is increasing. Oh, I had the right direction and now I lost it. X is increasing. X is increasing. X is increasing. Why is X increasing no matter which direction I go? Oh, the flickering is because I still have the debug rendering on. Oh, right, yeah, the chunk boundaries. All right, X is decreasing, but Y is increasing. Y is increasing worse. Okay, so it's this way. I don't see it. Oh, I way overshot. That's how big this world is. I have no idea what I'm doing. There it is. It's right there. But anyway, so you can see that the current simulation, nothing is getting allocated. The allocations all only happened during the when I'm creating and removing blocks. This simulation doesn't require any allocations, so it's all super fast. That comes from that choice that I made to have the belt runs always store all of the have enough slots for when it's full. Which I think is the right call then, because now there's no dynamic allocation in that path. So only when you change things does it require allocations. All right, so I'll check that in. And then we have to start making real machines that aren't hacked. So I guess that means doing the inserters I'm sure I want to go that route. This. So I've been streaming for 2.5 hours. So I think I'll take a 15-minute break. So I'm going to stop. So I'm going to stop for 15 minutes, and we'll come back and continue from the same thing. I'm not going to bother announcing on Twitter the restart, so you just have to come back. Actually, let's aim for on the hour, which is 20 minutes from now. And that's going to be part 2 of this episode rather than a separate part. All right, so see you in a little bit.